Incredible prediction from the great Vilna Gaon, who lived in the 1700s, which I wanted to relay over here. This is brought in the Hagdama to the Sefer Even Shlomo, which was written by his Talmid, Rav Shmuel Maltzin. It's also brought in the Sefer Gaon Mi Vilna, a three-part series, where they explain about this incredible man who was an anomaly to his generation. He totally, in the past 1,000 years, was the standout Rabbi Gaon that nobody even held up to his shoes about in his greatness. And the Yesod that the Gaon said was that the 10 parshiot that are in Sefer Dvarim, in the Sefer that we are in right now, in Sefer Dvarim, Betchan and Ekev Rei, each one is connected 100 years in the last millennia, in the last 6,000 years. We are now between the 5,000 to the 6,000 years. We know the Gemara in Avodah Zarah and Daf Tet brings that the world will be for 6,000 years. We are now, as we know, in the millennia of 5,700, but every 100 years there will be another. It will be connected to Parsha. So Lamashal, from 5,000 to 5,100 is Dvarim. But Chanan is from 51 to 5,200, etc., etc. That's how it is. We find many places also, though, that the Gaon says in Sefer Ditznius and Perek Hey, he writes every action that was taken place written in the Torah. We know that he was always into finding Ramaz in the Torah. It's based on the Zohar and Parshas Truma, which says every Irua Be'olam Merumas B'Torah, every different event in the Torah is Merumas inside of the Torah, and that's what it is. As Gemara Tani, it says Leika Midi, the Leika Marima, the Leika Remiza Be'oraita. So we know that everything has a remez, has a hint in the Torah. Every event, every person, everything that occurs is hinted in the Torah. So here we go to the Vilna Gaon, and he was asked, where are you hinted to in the Torah? Now, before we mention where he's hinted to in the Torah, we have to listen to his original prophecy. And he said every 100 years is connected to Parsha. So the Vilna Gaon lived in the 1700s. He was nifter in 1792 or 1793. And therefore, if you work out the math, he is Keneged Parshat Kitetse. He is Keneged Parshat Kitetse. If you go Dvarim from 500 of them, you go from the 40s, meaning from 1740 to 1840, 1840 to 1940, always is the change of the 100-year millennia in the Jewish cycle, in the Jewish thing. So anyways, they said, according to the Vilna Gaon's calculation, he lived during Parshat Ki Teitze. So they said, so where are you Merumas? And where are you Merumas in Parshat Ki Teitze? So all of us would scratch our heads and start looking around and trying to figure out where it is. On the spot, he answered them the pasuk that said, Even Shleime b'tzedek yiyeh lecha l'man yirichu yimecha al adama asher natan lach. That you shall have balances and scales which are honest, which are real, which are appropriate. And he says he was Merumas in that pasuk. Where? How is he mentioned over there? Because the word Evan is Aleph Ben. Aleph stands for Eliyahu. The Vilna Gaon's name is Eliyahu. Aleph Eliyahu. Ben, Aleph Bet Nun, right? Aleph Ben Shlomo. His father's name was Shlomo. So Evan Shlomo means Evan Shlema. Evan is Aleph Eliyahu Ben Shlomo. And he says that's where he was Merumas in the Torah. They continue to ask him, and that's why he named the Sefer Even Shleima, by the way, the name of the book that is written all about many ideas from a liquid of all the ideas of the Vilna Gaon. It's called Even Shleima. That's why he named it that. So then they asked him, but why are you a little Aleph and your father Shlomo? You are bigger than your father in Kol HaKavod. Your father was a great rabbi, but Rav Eliyahu, the Vilna Gaon, took the cake. So why are you a cute little Aleph? So he said, well, if you write out the word Aleph is Aleph Lamed Pei. Aleph Lamed Pei, take the letters backwards, is Pele. He was a Pele. He was an incredible feat. All the Torah of the Vilna Gaon is a Pele. It's Palai. It's hidden because people can write many Sfarim just on the amount of words that he has. He himself was a Pele, but also his Torah was a Torah Tanistar. The amount that he wrote, that he was able to do, is a Pele to do. Unfortunately, when some people hear the word Pele, the first person they think about is Pelé, some soccer player that they think. But I don't think it's coincidence that his name was Pelé because he was known as the Pele soccer player, so they got it from that name. Anyways, Lahavdil Million Havdalot. Anyways, that's what he said. He writes in that sefer. They continue and they say, "What about your mother's name? So where's your mother hinted to? Where's your mother hinted to in Parshas Ki Teitze?" So he says, "What do you mean? My mother's name was Tarina. That was his mother's name. Tarina is the Gematria of V'tzedek yiyeh lecha. the same pasuk which he was merumas to. In other words, his name was Evan Shlema, V'tzedeki Elecha. Evan Shlema, he is Evan ben Shlomo, and you continue, V'tzedeki Elecha, and also his mother, Tzedeki Elecha, was his mother. Come on, this is Vilna Gaon, this is incredible, no? So they continue over there in the Sefer on, that's what's written in the beginning of Evan Shlema. But in the Sefer on the Vilna Gaon, they actually write, also if you take the pasuk of Ki Tetzei, which starts, Ki Tetzei, of course, with an Aleph, Ki Tetzei starts with an Aleph for Eliyahu, you count Yud Kei Vav Kei 26, the number 26 for Sephardim is a very meaningful number. That's, of course, the number of the Gematria of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You count 26 letters, you get to Lamed. Another 26 letters, you get to Yud. Another 26 letters to Hey, and another 26 letters to Vav. So you end up getting Eliyahu also in Parshas Ki Tetzei with a count of Yud Kei Vav Kei, of the count of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the most incredible of Gematria that's also brought down is because we know that there are 5,847 psukim in the Torah. The whole entire Torah has 5,847 psukim. Right? Everybody knows that? Right? You know, you can count yourself. Now, if you count how many psukim if you count Tav Kuf Nun Chet psukim, you count 558 psukim. That is the pasuk of this pasuk, Evan Shlema V'tzedeki Elecha. The pasuk of Evan Shlema is Tav Kuf Nun Chet psukim into the Torah. 5,558 psukim into the Torah. Tav Kuf Nun Chet is the date, the year that the Vilna Gaon was an iftar. He died in the year 5,000, Tav Kuf Nun Chet, 558. And the pasuk of Evan Shlema V'tzedeki Elecha is the pasuk that is the 5,558th pasuk in the Torah. That's not coincidence anymore. That's already a good one, no? That's impressive. Al Kol Panim, that is the remez that we have based on the incredible prophecy of the Vilna Gaon that he told us. Now, why dafka in this pasuk? Now, everybody could always ask the obvious question: is why pick this pasuk for the Vilna Gaon? I would have picked the Serse Dibros, Shema Yisrael. I could have thought of a lot of good choices to put the Vilna Gaon inside of. Why Evan Shlema Tzedeki Elecha? So, Rav David Cohen, in one of his Sfarim, now this is Rav David Cohen, not in Eretz Yisrael, in America, brings down from the Maseches Eruvin, as we all know. Over there it discusses many things about learning Torah, and it says, Luchot Evan, the Torah is compared to Evan. Evan Yifot Tzela. It is always compared to Evan because you're not supposed to forget the Torah. You're supposed to review it and learn it again and again, and it goes straight into your heart. The Gemara says that the Evan of the Yetzer Hara and the Evan of the Torah, one fights connect the other, and you're able to beat the Yetzer Hara only through learning Torah. But the idea behind the Torah that it's compared to Evan is that it's solid, it's not forgotten, it's there in a very solid type of thing. Just like an Evan doesn't get melted away, so too it cannot be taken away. So too, the Vilna Gaon, as Rav Chaim Volozhiner writes, his Talmud, the Vilna Gaon had in the palm of his head Bavli, Yerushalmi, Sifra, Sifri, Midrashim, Zohar, the Meiser Merkava, everything, Sifra Ditznius, everything was in his pockets, and he knew it backwards and forwards. He says, we know Ashrei by heart. He said, try to say Ashrei backwards. Yeah, right. He says he could say the Torah backwards and forwards, not just forwards, also backwards. He knew it Baal Peh. It was like sitting in front of his thing, like an Evan. That's like a stone that was in front of him, and that was the incredible point of the Evan. What about the Shleima Shabo? The Shleima is also, they write, the Achronim, is the idea of Shleimut, because the whole idea of the Pirush of the Vilna Gaon, when he wrote his Pirush, was to show the Shleimut of Torah. Whenever there was a halacha which didn't have a source, he would pinpoint it to a Gemara. Whenever there's a Mishnah, he would always pinpoint it to a pasuk in Pirkei Avot and other places. He would always find the pasuk because he wanted to show that everything was consistent. Everything was gamished together. Everything was all put together as one thing. And that was the incredible idea of an Evan and its Shalem. His whole purpose of the Vilna Gaon was to show the incredible oneness of the Torah. And he was the Midah of Emet. Of course, Torah is connected to Emet. Yaakov is the Midah of Emet. And Yaakov is the Midah of Torah. Emet and Evan Shlema is the idea of balancing, of bringing out this incredible balance of being Amiti. The Chofetz Chaim would go into the store of his wife, or his store really, And he would, most people would check the pocketbooks to check the money, how much did you make in the cash registers. He would always check the scales. He would always check, is it up by a little bit, 0.1? He wanted to make sure the scales were always perfect. Chas v'shalom, you should never cheat someone even by a iota. So that's why the Even Shleima, the idea of the Even Shleima, the balances are theirs to be the Midah of Emet, and that's why the Vilna Gaon, the epitome of Torah, is connected this Midah of Emet. It's great, that's Parshat Ki Teitzei. If we move on to Parshat Ki Tavai, which is already this week's Parsha, so then we find an incredible thing. Ki Tavai is the encompassing time from the next generation, Ki Tasai, which moves into the 1900s till the 1940s. Do I have to tell you what happened? The most treacherous, difficult, and probably in all of history of Jewish history, which we've had a pretty difficult history, the most difficult was, of course, especially until 1940s. Why? Because first of all, people forget there's also World War I. We also had a lot of casualties. There were many Jewish casualties who fought in many different wars. We had a lot of, over 1 million, if I'm not mistaken, that died even in World War I. World War II, of course, I don't have to tell you about the Holocaust that we had to unfortunately go through, one of the most historically decrepit time that we went through. Is it no coincidence that this is in the Parsha of Ki Tavo, which is the Parsha of the Klalot, the Parsha which describes the Holocaust, so to speak, as the Psukim write, Vayayim lo tishmu b'kol Hashem Elokecha, lishmor la'asot et kol mitzvotav v'chukotav asher anochi mitzavcha hayom. If you don't listen to what I'm going to tell you, ubao alecha kol ha'klalot ha'ela v'yisigucha. All these difficult curses will come upon you. And this is in Parshat Ki Tavo, which is mamish in the 20th century, during the time of the 1900s. That's when it comes. The pasuk says, "Vayameshuga mimare enecha asher tira." You will become crazy from what you will see. You will see things that will make you out of your mind. I don't have to speak about how many people have post-trauma from the Holocaust, but even Viktor Frankl, when he writes in his book, when he goes in, he speaks about the phases of a person who walks into Auschwitz. He was in Auschwitz for almost the whole entire 6 years, and he writes in the beginning, you were meshuga. You're looking at what? You just go crazy until you become completely callous, indifferent, no personality. People just became completely apathetic to the whole entire situation, because otherwise you would just drop dead. You couldn't last in what you saw was meshuga. It was absolutely crazy, an absolute prophecy to everything that we're seeing in our parshas. And then we have, of course, the pasuk Ve'avadet Hashem Elokim achirim eitz ve'evan ve'yita l'sham l'shnina mikol amim. All the nations will hate you. They will go against you, as Rabbi Yerucham writes in our parsha, Parshat Ki Tov, and also Parshat Ki Toldos. He says that there's absolutely no sense to it. All they say is about the fact that a Jew is considered cursed. If we get too close to them, they say they're trying to take over. If we get far of them, so they say you're acting like you're an Am Segula like you're something special, like you're Chutzpah Nicker. He says there's stireth every day. He reads the Sturmer. He writes a Strum, the newspaper of the Germans by Streicher, if I'm not mistaken, and over there he says that every day they contradict. One day they say like this about the Jews, one day like that. It says it's absolutely nonsensical. The fact that people are doing it is just Gzeira Hashem from our parsha. He says it's a Gzeira from, they said, Vayita l'shama l'shnina mikol amim. There is no sense that happened in Mamish. That parsha is exactly the time of the Holocaust, during the time of the Nazi regime. And we end with Nitzavim V'Yelech. Of course, Nitzavim V'Yelech is the discussion all about tshuva. Vayavo ki yavo alecha dvarim ha'ele v'shamata b'kola. We will all be choizer b'tshuva. V'sham Hashem Elokecha et shvutecha v'remcha v'shavi kiptzecha. Kadosh Baruch Hu will bring you back. When's the tshuva movement happen? We never had a tshuva movement like we have from now. From the time of the 6-Day War at the end of the 67, from then began all the mosdot that started building up, whether it's Or Sameach Torah, whether it's from Arachim, whether it's from Lev La'achim, and all the other, the incredible amount of organizations which never existed. We never had such a thing in our life. Things that we thought we were on the brink of finishing religion. Rahman al-Litzan, Chas v'Shalom. It was there. And here we have this Baal Tshuva movement like we've never seen before in the masses, something that makes no sense. If the Torah didn't write in the Psukim here that we would be Shav, makes no. Why in heaven's name would a person leave comfortable American life, going to the movies, going ahead and being able to do whatever the heck you want, to go ahead and start keeping Shabbat, start keeping all these limitations, all these rules, all these difficulties, when I have to go ahead and restrain myself from certain things that I have to do? Are you joking? Why would I do such a thing? It makes no sense if not that the Torah says it's going to happen. and because of the beauty of the Torah that prophesies the same idea. And Nitzavim V'Yelech happens from the middle of the 20th century, from the 1950s and on, 1960 in other words, and we're now in Nitzavim V'Yelech. That's exactly the parsha that we are in the time of doing tshuva, when slowly but surely we will go ahead and come back until, since we do tshuva, then the Kadosh Baruch Hu Kebi Yochel also does tshuva. He takes us back. He's shav. He brings us back, and he takes us back from that time period, and he brings us back. As the Malbim writes over here in the parsha of Nitzavim, he writes that. He says, Hashem Yeshuv Otanu Begalut. The Chofetz Chaim writes at the Maharal, and others write this same idea, that because we end up doing tshuva, when we will come back, is the prediction in the Psukim and that we're in, that eventually we'll come back until we spill over till V'zot HaBracha. V'zot HaBracha kicks in about 15 more years. I'm not saying we have to wait. V'zot Hashem, we don't have to wait. But V'zot HaBracha, which of course is the final parting. No, we don't have to wait. Don't worry. We're good. What? Right, do it from early, right? And that's what you do, right? He's saying we read V'zot HaBracha. From that time period, and that will bring the Geula when Moshe Rabbeinu will be the case. Oh, right, I'm sorry. First is the Azinu, which is the Shir of Azinu, and then the idea of V'zot HaBracha. Ashinu is the Shir of Geula. That's what they're connecting. They're saying when you do the tshuva and this and that, so you have the Shira of the Geula, which eventually will bring to the Mashiach Tzidkenu. It doesn't mean we have to wait that long, don't worry. That will be it. Al Kol Panim, we see the beauty of the predictions that we see. They're real, they're accurate, and all that it takes from us is one small entire thing, is to be able to take Elul, take Rosh Hashanah, take Yom Kippur into our hands, make a change, make a commitment, as small it is, and call yourself a Baal Tshuva, because in essence, we all are Baalei Tshuva. Okay.